kind of been a little bit challenging to navigate this week. My apologies to anybody, but I am going to do the readings for Steve, Tina, and Dani in this section. And remember, we're talking about how the angles change. What are the planetary energies on your angles, right? Because knowing your rising sign energy, knowing your IC, knowing your descendant in midheaven are knowing key things about life. The rising sign is the personality, the IC is the home life, the descendant is the relationship, and the midheaven is the career sector. But now you want to find out, what planetary energies fall on those angles? How am I working with them? Do I like working with this energy? How do they change? How does it change when I move? We are never stuck. And that's one of the beauties of knowing your chart angles, because if you don't like the chart energy, you can always move. You can always see how your chart behaves in a different continent, like Europe. Or how does it behave if you live in the East Coast and you go to the West Coast? How does it behave if you go to Hawaii? How does it behave if you go out to Africa? How does it behave if you're in Europe? What about if you're in Russia? These are things you want to be aware of. I'm talking only angles, angles, angles. I'm not here to look at all the planetary energies that change for you when you relocate your chart. That's not why I'm doing these readings. If you want that done, you're going to need to spend a lot of money to work with an astrologer who will look at, where's your Mars falling? Oh, maybe your sun has moved to the first, or maybe Venus is now in the fifth, or maybe you don't like where your natal Venus is. Maybe you have natal Venus in the third and you want more love in your life, so you want to find a location where Venus in the fifth is going to be better for you. I'm not doing that today, everyone. That would be so time consuming. You need to pay an astrologer to do that. What I'm doing is the angles, because those angles are going to be tapping you on the shoulder and letting you know who they are this lifetime. So the sooner you get acquainted with your angular energies, the sooner you understand so much about how to work with your chart, how to understand your chart, how to navigate your chart, how your chart changes when you move or you travel or you relocate or you're dealing with people from different parts of the world. There's billions of people in the world, folks. Billions. Okay? So, Steve, we're starting with you. Steve! Little Rock, Arkansas. Steve, you were born January 8th, 1995, 5:15 p.m. Little Rock, Arkansas. And in Little Rock, Arkansas, your natal chart, Steve, you are a Cancer rising, otherwise known as Cancer ascendant. You have a Libra IC, Libra home life. You have a Capricorn descendant, Capricorn relationship energy, but you have the Sun, Neptune, and Uranus planetary energies affecting you, Steve, all the time in your relationships. That's right. The Sun, Neptune, and Uranus. You navigate those energies in your relationships. What does that mean? Well, do you like the relationship energy you have in Little Rock? The Sun energy, you attract lots of partners, probably lots of glamorous, good-looking partnerships, partners that are fun, partners that are good in the spotlight, partners with a sunny disposition, maybe Leo energies. You also attract Neptunian partners, Steve, in Little Rock. Neptunian partners could be partners that are very spiritual, very much healers, empaths, very much good in the film industry, models, photography, people that are very secretive, people with addictions, people that like to get drunk. You could be attracting addictions in your partnerships with Neptune there. Uranus is also there, which is like you're going along and then surprise! And you're like going, where did that come from in my relationship sector? you have Uranus in that sector. That can be very, very hard to predict energy. And I would think having Uranus there would not be that easy, to be honest. Now, maybe having the Sun, Neptune, and Uranus, you enjoy, Steve, and you've been navigating it really well so far. It can also mean you're very popular in your relationships and you attract a lot of relationships to you this lifetime. It can mean you're married a couple of times as well. But the key takeaway, Steve, is that Sun, Neptune, Uranus are big planetary energies for your chart. Okay? Now, your midheaven is in Aries, right? So, of all your angles, your Cancer rising, your Libra IC, and your Capricorn descendant, and your midheaven in Aries, the angle that has the planets on it is the relationship angle, is the descendant angle. So, now let's say, Steve, and hang on, because I'm working off a couple of different things, you guys. I've got lots of tools in my toolbox that I use. Woo-hoo! Woo-hoo! Okay. So, Steve, let's say one day, or maybe you've already been, you decide, you know what, I'm going over to Norway. I'm going to go over to Europe because I've always wanted to go to Scandinavia and so on and so forth. So what happens to Steve's Little Rock, Arkansas chart when we navigate him over to Oslo, Norway? Knowing that in Little Rock, you've got the Sun, Neptune, and Uranus on the descendant. Now what happens to your chart in Oslo, Norway? So, your chart turns into a Libra rising. Now in the IC home life, what happened? That Sun, that Neptune, and that Uranus. Uranus is kind of wider down in this chart. Let's say super strong sun line energy for sure. Then Neptune in strength, and Uranus is kind of third. It's not as bad as it is in the Little Rock chart. But for Oslo, now you've got those planets in the home life. So that means you shine in the home life. You have Neptune in the home life, Uranus in the home life. On the descendant, your descendant is now an Aries descendant. And the midheaven is now a Cancer midheaven. Do you see, Steve, how your chart has changed? So Oslo, Norway, if you go there, you may say, hey, I could live here maybe. This might be kind of fun. Because those energies now, the Sun, Neptune, and Uranus, are down in the home life, in the family unit. So know that is one way your planets move, your planets shift, okay? Now one more area I want to look at for you is in South America. When I move you to South America, Steve, for example, Panama or Peru, you have the Sun descendant line in those cities, which is very similar to the Little Rock, Arkansas chart that you have, okay? In Panama, you have a very strong moon midheaven line. It's like zenith. In Panama, I don't know if you've been to Panama. Do you like Panama? You may find, hey, I could live here. I could have family here. I could make it here if I wanted to with the moon midheaven line in Panama. So, Steve, if you can tell how your chart changes when you move it around, when you relocate, when you travel, when you change, you want to know what planets are falling on these 4 angles to understand how it's going to feel for you, how you're going to enjoy it or not enjoy it, or you like it or you don't like it. And so, Steve, thank you for letting us look at your chart. And thank you, Steve, for always being so helpful to me and my channel. I appreciate you so much as a great human being. So thank you. Now, next person, hang on, everyone. Let's do this. Now we are going to go to, I think we're going to go to Tina. Tina, are you ready for this? Oh, Tina, are you ready? I know I'm acting silly, you guys, but you guys know that I'm kind of silly, okay? And so, you know, I'm just being my authentic silly self right now because I like to have fun and giggle and laugh. Okay, Miss Tina, North Carolina Tina. Woohoo! Tina, your rising sign in Winston-Salem, North Carolina is Leo rising. Your home life IC angle is Libra. But guess what planet you have in the home with you? Uranus. Uranus in the home. Unexpected surprises with the family, with mom, with dad, with relationships, with what went on in the home, with where you live, with what you want in a family, with how it goes with family and nurturing. In the descendant angle, you have Aquarius. That's the relationship angle. But guess what planetary energy is there? The moon. The moon is conjuncting your descendant energy in Aquarius. The midheaven is Aries. So what two planets in your natal chart in North Carolina tap you on the shoulder and say, hi, get acquainted with me? Both Uranus in the home life, conjunct the IC in Libra, and the moon in Aquarius, conjunct the descendant. So the question is, Tina, do you like living between Uranus and the moon in North Carolina? Because probably anywhere in North Carolina, it's going to feel the same. Only you are going to know. Now, when we move you, Tina, over to the West Coast, Calgary, Alberta, Canada, where you know I have some relatives, because you know I'm also Canadian, Spokane, Washington, Bend, Oregon, San Francisco, California, you know I was born in Northern Cal. You've got a sun ascendant. You have the sun right on top of your personality in those cities and states, Tina. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. So let's pause for a minute. In the North Carolina chart, you don't have the shiny sun on any of your angles. You just don't. You got Uranus and you got the moon. But when you go to the West Coast, you got the sun on your rising sign. That is a winning energy. That is a shiny energy. That is a feel-good energy on your personality. Have you been to the West Coast? Do you like people from the West Coast like me? I'm so sorry today, guys. I'm not going to apologize. Sorry, back it up. Anyway, let's move on. Sun ascendant line. Do you know how many people love to live on their sun ascendant line? I'm just letting you know. Tina, I love it. Now, what I like even better is when you go to Boise, Idaho, Klamath Falls, Oregon, Reno, Nevada, San Jose, California, and Bakersfield, which is still kind of in the West Coast. Guess what line you're on there now? Venus, you're on Aphrodite's line. Venus ascendant line. Venus, you know, the goddess of love and beauty and harmony and grace and money. Do you know how many people ask me to get them over to a Venus line, Tina? And you've got it right there in those cities and states. Pretty cool if you ask me. So, what I want to say to everyone, or what I want to say to Miss Tina especially, North Carolina, you got that Uranus and moon to navigate. But when you go over to the West Coast, those lines are a lot more pleasant. You're never stuck, ever. So I'm sure you are learning to work with the energies in North Carolina. And if I were you, I'd be gravitating over to the West Coast and see how those energies feel for you. Yeah, I would. I definitely would. The other thing is when you go to Europe, Tina, go to Greece, you're on a sun descendant line, which bodes really well for relationship energy. Now, the one area I do want to caution you about, Tina, is if you were to go to St. Louis, Missouri, Minneapolis, Little Rock, Arkansas, Thunder Bay, Canada, that's a Pluto midheaven. Pluto midheaven, that is the lord of the underworld in your career. Pluto lines, I mentioned to everyone, you need to be careful when you go to a Pluto line. You need to know that area is a strong Pluto. Pluto is the lord of the underworld, and that's a Pluto line that's in the career sector. Be very careful in that city, those cities. Okay, so Tina from North Carolina, that was kind of fun. Now we're going to go to Dani, who lives in Birmingham, Alabama. Hang on, Dani, 1 second. Okay, hang on. Woohoo! Dani, Dani, Dani. Okay, Dani in Birmingham. So Dani in Birmingham, Alabama, you are a Libra rising. On the IC angle, you are an Aquarius. In the descendant relationship area, you're an Aries. But guess what you've got, Dani? You've got both Venus and Jupiter kissing you in the relationship sector. Jupiter is abundance, luck, good fortune. Maybe you've had an abundance of luckiness in your relationships, or maybe you date really wealthy people with Jupiter conjunct the descendant. And Venus there means you have the kiss of Aphrodite in your relationship energy. Really great energy for relationships. Your midheaven is Leo. So if all your angles, the rising sign, the IC, the home life, the descendant angle is where you've got planets, Jupiter and Venus tapping you on the shoulder saying, hello, what's happening? You have great energy in Birmingham. You probably will never want to move. You may, but why would you? I have lots of clients that would love to have a chart like you have, living on Jupiter and Venus in one spot. That's a rare thing. But when I moved you to Manchester, well, I moved you over to the UK, London area. You are on a Venus IC and Jupiter IC. So your natal chart, Jupiter and Venus fall in the descendant, but when you go to London, it's down in the home life now. So in London, that energy moves for you, Dani, which is kind of cool, if you ask me. In Europe, you need to be very careful. Pluto comes into play. If you notice, you don't have to worry too much. You were born with Pluto in your first house, but it's not on an angle. But when you go to Sweden and Poland, you've got Pluto on an angle. Your Pluto is at the top of the chart. It's a mid-heaven energy. So for you, Dani, just like I mentioned to others, when you're going to a Pluto line, you want to be prepared and you want to know what you're dealing with. Be very, very careful in Sweden and Poland because now Pluto is on an angle. The Venus and Jupiter are no longer there on an angle. And so that's why I mentioned probably in Birmingham, Alabama, you're going to love it there and probably not want to leave. Now, when I take you to Australia, particularly the Alice Springs area, close to Alice Springs, Australia, you have a sun midheaven line, which is beautiful. The sun is how we shine. And so now you've got that planetary energy at the top of your chart. So in summary, Dani, in Birmingham, the planets that really are with you are Jupiter and Venus because they're on an angle. Doesn't mean the rest of your chart doesn't matter. That's not what I'm saying. I'm talking just angles for this particular reading. Jupiter and Venus are with you. Great placement. When you go to the UK, Jupiter and Venus move down to the home life. angle. They're not in the descendant angle. They're down in the IC angle. When you go to Sweden and Poland, you have Pluto in the midheaven. No Venus and Jupiter lines there. It's Pluto. That's very dangerous energy you want to be very careful about. When you're in Alice Springs, Australia, you got the shiny sun with you in your midheaven. So you got different planets to deal with in these different cities, countries, and states. And that's why you want to understand the angles in your chart, natally, and when you move or relocate. So everyone, I am done doing these 3 readings for the 3 of you. Now I've got more coming and they will be here. Like I said, there was a glitch on YouTube this week, which has kind of put me behind. So I'm so sorry to all of you. I love you all. I'm so glad you got these readings done and you have a better understanding of your chart energies. Now, no, you can navigate this and you could relocate your chart and mess around with your chart in every continent and country and every city and state there is. Have fun. I'll talk to you soon. Bye for now. Okay, get out of here. This thing is blocking my thing.